Edit 1. Thank you all for the responses. It is great to hear all the advice, from funny to serious. Gotta love dads. Edit 2. I tried to at least read all of them. Thanks for sharing, everyone. Story 1. Cut towards your buddy, not towards your body. Referring to using knives safely. If you will not even remember it in 5 years, do not spend 5 minutes worrying about it. The fastest way to get something done is to slow down and do it right the first time. If you have to eat an unpleasant sandwich, do not nibble. Story 2. If you are cold, you are not working hard enough, said Dad anytime it was less than 65 degrees and someone said they were cold. Story 3. My dad was a drunk and a drug addict who did nothing right. He offered no advice except for one thing he said that I have stuck with my entire life. Back elbow up. Keep swinging. Playing middle school baseball, my dad showed up to a game rather than the bar after work. I was standing in the batter's box facing a tough pitcher who I kept fouling balls off of. I stepped out of the box for an anxiety-filled breather, looked up, and saw him with his drinking buddies. He clapped his hands and said that. I stepped back into the box. I wish I had hit a home run, but I doubled to left field and drove in a run. On second base, I looked up for him, but he was heading to the car with his drinking buddies. What I learned, you're on your own. Something going wrong? It's probably your form, so fix it. Keep swinging, because you are guaranteed to strike out if you don't. Story 4. Not me personally, but Mary-Kate and Ashley's dad said, no is a full sentence, and that will always stick with me. Story 5. It will be an adventure. My dad and I have done many things together. We rode a bike from Houston to Austin 5 times, a marathon. We worked together for about 9 years. We get along great, and when he suggested doing something we had not done before, this was his go-to phrase. He had a certain way of saying it that really made you understand you might not master it immediately, but you would figure it out along the way. It really shaped my way of thinking. Story 6. You are a product of your decisions, given your circumstances. He used to say this a lot to me when I would complain about things as a teenager. You may not like the situation you are in, but there are always steps you can take to improve your life and yourself, no matter where you are. It is all about how much you are willing to work for it. Story 7. Every time I complained about getting hurt, he would say, do you want me to call you an ambulance? To which I would say, yes. And he would say, okay, you're an ambulance. Of course, he did not say that if I was seriously injured, but for minor scrapes and such, it would always make me laugh and we would move on. I now say it to my niece, sister, wife, and anyone who comes to me with a small injury. Story 8. Try everything once, and the better things twice. I now say this to a toddler while trying to get her to eat something I know she will like. If I could get just a tiny bit of it in her mouth. Story 9. Nobody will take care of you like you. Dad ran a junkyard and towing company in the 1990s. He closed the junkyard some time ago because it was not profitable enough. At its peak, he would bring me out there in the Texas sun and pull parts for customers himself. One day, I finally asked him why he did not just ask one of his many workers to do it. He said they were not as fast as him. Then he got serious, looked at me and said, nobody will take care of you like you. He still says it from time to time. It is partly what makes me do things like change my own oil instead of trusting someone who has no investment in my vehicle. Story 10. Close the door. You are letting all the cold air out. The first time I said that, it kind of freaked me out. Story 11. It was not my father, but the old Slovenian man who taught me to use a shaper, who said, do not think about anything inappropriate when you are using this machine. Story 12. The biggest choice in life you make is the partner you choose. It will have, by far, the biggest impact on its trajectory, your goals, and where life ends. Story 13. You cannot always get what you want. But if you try sometimes, you just might find you get what you need. I hated that song growing up because I would just hear my dad saying it whenever I asked him for something. But it turned out to be completely true. Story 14. Absolutely, I drink. There is acid in the rain, sex can be dangerous, and people put pineapple on pizza. I do not trust anyone who does not want a drink under those circumstances. Story 15. You do not do the right thing to get a reward. You do not do the right thing so everybody likes you. You do the right thing because it is the right thing to do. Story 16. The secret to being an adult is realizing everybody else is also faking it. He did not say it all the time, but it stuck with me forever. Story 17. We are leaving in 7 minutes. 7 minutes is perfect for getting last-minute tasks done and getting out to the car to leave. Story 18. If there is a will, there is a way. We were pretty poor growing up and did not have a lot of money to buy nice things like a house or cars, so my dad was always fixing, repairing, or building things. I learned a lot by watching and helping him. This was all before the days of online videos. You either had to figure things out on your own or talk to people who knew what they were doing. I learned basic car repairs, carpentry, plumbing, drywall, electrical work, you name it. To this day, there are not many things that I cannot do or fix. If there is a will, there is a way. Side note, my dad passed away a while back, and this brought up some fond memories. Thank you for this. Story 19. My grandpa basically raised me, so I will use one of his sayings. Whenever anyone asked him, "How are you doing today?" he always replied, "Any day you wake up is a good one." Story 20. He told me that if I think something nice about someone, whether it is their hair, outfit, personality, or mannerisms, I should tell them, even if they are just a stranger walking past me. I live by that idea. Story 21. If you are going to hit him, you better make it a good one. Pay yourself first. Put 20% of your pay away for retirement. I retired at 55 with more than I will ever need. Credit cards are the root of all evil. Anything worth having is worth waiting for or saving for. Thanks to him, I never fell into that trap. I saved and paid cash for everything except my houses. Story 22. You can take it off, but you cannot put it on if you do not have it, especially when talking about taking warm clothing. Never pass up an opportunity to use the restroom. Do not stand when you can sit. Story 23. If you cannot dazzle them with brilliance, baffle them with nonsense. Take a look at the twins while bending over and slapping his buttocks like bongos. Story 24. Capisce? We're not even Italian. Our ancestors come from Ireland and Scotland. Now I use it playfully with my wife, who is from Argentina. Story 25. Show up early and have the right things. Basically, show up and be prepared. It is surprising how few people have this basic life skill. Story 26. My dad passed away when my mom was 6 months pregnant. I am going to have to pass on this question, gentlemen. Story 27. It will be healed by the time you are 80. Honestly, right now I tell myself this whenever I am worried about something small. It gives me a little reminder not to stress about things that are not worth stressing about. Story 28. When my brothers and I were still fairly young until our teen years, he would always remind us to clean ourselves properly each time we were going into the bath or shower. He always stressed the importance of making it a habit. It worked well enough. Story 29. Get yourself in a good balanced position whenever you are doing any physical work, and have whatever you are working on directly in front of you. Story 30. Dad? Not much, but my mom is the greatest smartass to raise a pair of smartasses. My brother and I often quote her to her, even laugh out loud. Did something dumb? Give your head a shake. See if it rattles. Can't find something? Did you look like a man or look like a woman? And just a whole lot of sarcasm. Story 31. Put a hat on when you go outside to protect my bald head from getting skin cancer. He yelled at me as an adult if I went out without a hat, sunny or not. Story 32. You are not going to learn any younger. Every time he told me to do something I had not done before, he repeated that damned phrase. Along with, I will show you once how it is done. I will show you twice to teach you how it is done. After that, you have to do it on your own. Story 33. My father-in-law used to tell his children, you can get glad in the same pants you got mad in. Classic. Story 34. My dad died this week, and he was legendary for his jokes. You think your dad has dad jokes? They have nothing on my dad. But the one I use the most is, when you assume you make an ass out of me. Story 35. Answering the phone. Hello. Leave the door open. Close the door. Or were you born in a barn? Miss that dude. Story 36. This too shall pass. My sisters and I use it all the time and remember him fondly. He was right too. When something is going badly, I remember that this too shall pass. Story 37. Some people say you earn respect. I say give everyone respect until they give you a reason not to. Just because you can does not mean you should. Story 38. Beans, beans, the magical fruit. The more you eat, the more you toot. The more you toot, the better you feel, so eat some beans with every meal. I taught my 5-year-old, and it is her favorite rhyme. Her mother? Less than impressed. Story 39. Never trust a man who has never been punched in the mouth. Keep it simple, stupid. Do not lie. It is hard enough to remember the truth. Work smarter, not harder. No, your other left. Let the tool work for you, not the other way around. Story 40. He only said this once, but it stuck with me. If you are ever going to do something unwise, be smart about how you do it. Story 41. You have to have a system. This is from my moderately obsessive-compulsive disorder father, an engineer and do-it-yourselfer. This worked most of the time except when he got bogged down with obsessive-compulsive disorder in developing his system. Story 42. I don't know. You were never around, and that stuck with me. Don't be a bad father to my child. No words were spoken, but the actions meant a lot. Story 43. Anytime I wanted to go to the doctor or hospital, my dad would say, "Well, did you stretch?" That's why. I would have a bone sticking out and he would still ask me that. He said since I wasn't flexible, that's why I would get injured. Story 44. My father needed glasses but did not wear them often. He said, "Actually, I do not always want to see everything so closely." Story 45. Shetland ponies are small horses. When explaining why some families are short, some are tall, and some are overweight, genetics and environment play important roles. Story 46. It could happen to the bishop. Basically, do not worry about it because it could happen to anyone. Story 47. I am your father. Seriously, my dad died right before Star Wars. A New Hope when I was 7. When I heard that in The Empire Strikes Back, I understood it. But I do get the gist of the story. Story 48. As a kid, my dad did not work the traditional 9 to 5, Monday through Friday job. It varied. Sometimes he worked very late or very early, with random days off in between and even on holidays. Sometimes I would ask him if he was going to work on a given day, and his response was always, with the same condescending tone each time, "I work every day." 25 years later, I now tell him the exact same thing with the same tone if he asks me if I am going to work. Story 49. Terrible, thanks for asking, he says every time someone asks him how he is doing, always with a grin on his face. Story 50. I do not have a problem with you drinking alcohol. Please work for your drinks and never be a freeloader or ask for a drink. Story 51. It is better than a sharp stick in the eye, no matter what it is. Unless you have a sharp stick in the eye, I suppose. Story 52. He hit me with, "Were you born on a bus?" Every time I left a door open. Brutal and hilarious for both of us. Story 53. Cut your hair, iron your clothes, shave your face, show up 15 minutes early, and every teacher will pass you. It is not until you open your mouth that they learn you are a jackass. Story 54. If you don't try them, you'll never miss them. That was my drugs are bad talk with my dad in middle school. It worked, a very simple but effective mantra. I didn't even smoke weed, do shrooms, or drop acid until after I turned 30. I'm 35 and I smoke a joint at night before I go to bed. I'm good. He's a lifelong alcoholic, so I don't drink much at all. I have wine with dinner a few times a year and that's about it. Story 55. We lived very close to the Canadian border, and often it was easier to swear in French in some situations as others did not understand what you said. Story 56. We did not have much money growing up, and my father came from a part of England that made Scottish people seem to be lax with money. So anytime we asked to buy something, he would say, "Do you want it or need it?" Story 57. Whenever someone is leaving and going somewhere public, such as a show, event, airport, or into a city, I now always say, keep your wits about you. Story 58. If you never grow up, you never get old. If you never get old, you never die. I took it as, don't take life so seriously. Enjoy your life and what you do. Ignore what other people say as long as you are enjoying it. Story 59. Any trademark famous phrases from Mike Myers, Austin Powers, Wayne's World, and others. Advice or words of wisdom. If you need something done right, you might as well do it yourself. I'm a jack of all trades and a master of none. Story 60. If it is going to go to waste, it might as well go to mine, he said as he grabbed the last slice of pizza or whatever food was on the table. Story 61. Son, just be careful you never become the victim of your own success. Never visit people for dinner on an empty stomach. They could be horrible cooks or not have enough food. Story 62. Dad was an Englishman, born and raised in India in 1914. He spoke 7 languages fluently. He married my mother, who was born in Wales in 1919. In Welsh, dads call their sons boyo. Dad must have heard that somewhere, and he always called me boyo. I call my son boyo and always have. Story 63. Pro tip. Anytime you catch yourself saying something unusual, or you want to just add my old dad used to say. Look, you have to take the lemon with the meringue, my old dad used to say. Story 64. Work smart, not hard. He, like his father, is in a blue-collar job but was always a firm believer that intentionally doing something in a way that required the most effort was unwise. Honestly, it is asking for trouble with your own body down the line, more than you already will have from years of labor, and it is not always the fastest or most effective way either. Story 65. Question, Dad, where are we going? To hell if we don't change our ways. Question, where is the person? Up a hog's rear looking for a ham sandwich. Close only counts in horseshoes, hand grenades, and nuclear bombs. If you are the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room. You may be big and bad, but there is always someone bigger or tougher than you. You can do more damage to someone with a pen than with fists. Don't ever go looking for a fight, but if one comes looking for you, finish it before it begins, with overwhelming force. Fighting fair is for professionals. Motivation alone is not enough. If you motivate a fool, now you have a motivated fool, and there is nothing more destructive than a motivated fool. Hi hungry, I'm Dad. If you aren't cheating, you aren't trying. Story 66. I had a small home renovation company and was complaining to my accountant father about a particularly difficult project that was taking too long. He said, throw more money into it and get out so you can move on. It will make you happier. He was right. I brought in an extra pair of hands and left as soon as I could. It was worth the money. I got to the next job faster and made it right back. Story 67. If you are early, you are on time. If you are on time, you are late. Above all else, people will judge you by whether or not you do what you say you are going to do. If you marry that person for who they are, not for who you think they could be. I consider myself lucky to have grown up with a dad in recovery. I learned a lot from all the 12-step cliches and one-liners throughout the years. Story 68. When you are behind someone who is not moving at a green light, that is the only shade of green that we have got. Story 69. Well, you know what they say in Russia? Tough luck. It's cold enough to freeze the balls off a brass monkey. Story 70. Never spit in front of women and children. Always walk on the outside when with a woman. Show up, do the work, and keep quiet. They never bought me a beer. You are allowed 1 red light a day. Story 71. Never ask for a raise. Let your work ethic do the talking. Call me whatever name you want. Just don't call me late to dinner. You used up all your karma points. Once you are an adult, you do not need to explain yourself. You are only sick if you think you are sick. Do not tell me what you are going to do. Tell me what you have already accomplished or are currently doing. You will always make more money. Story 72. My dad said, if you pick it up, put it away. Don't just put it back down. My mentor said, You can build 1,000 bridges, but if you behave poorly once, they won't call you a bridge builder. Story 73. At any person or creature left in the home as you are leaving, whether for work, errands, dates, or forever, protect the home. If you cannot, protect yourselves. Story 74. On the highway, when we passed someone who previously drove poorly or did something dangerous in front of us, my dad would point to the window and say, "Son, do you want to see what a foolish person looks like?" Story 75. Give up the run to get the out. This was literally instructions for our baseball team, but it also works well in general. It is okay to accept the setback now if it allows you to keep progressing toward the overall goal. Never point a gun at anything you do not want to destroy. This is pretty obvious. There are too many long, torturous pun jokes to mention. Story 76. Sacrifice for what you want, or what you want becomes the sacrifice. Do not trust anybody. Family is everything. Life is not fair. You have to keep pushing and doing your best no matter what. You choose to be happy. Story 77. When he took me into the bathroom in public and I said that I did not need to go, he would respond, "Try," in the scariest dad voice ever. Story 78. To treat everyone I meet as an individual, not a sum of their parts. Those who tell you that they know everything are lying or are lost to their own ego. Those who tell others they are good people are not to be trusted, as the judgment of whether you are good is in the eyes of others, not you. I have many quotes from my father. It is hard to nail down a single one that does not guide me in some way. God, I miss him. Story 79. Sometimes you just have to do it. Great life advice when you need to do tasks that are unpleasant. Not so great life advice when teaching a child how to swim or drive a manual transmission vehicle. Story 80. You are going to war without a gun. My dad would tell me this when I was working with him while we were framing houses and I did not have a pencil to write the measurements or mark things with. This still resonates with me today. Story 81. You are not your thoughts. You can draw an asshole on paper, but you cannot make it shit. You are put together cheaply. Many hands make light work. There is nothing new under the sun. Story 82. I always think it is not a lot, but whenever I hear my dad and his friends, I am like, okay, this sounds familiar. Story 83. You are rich when your money works for you. Sorry, Dad, all my employees have been on strike for years. Story 84. When something less than ideal but not horrible happens, it beats a poke in the eye with a sharp stick. Story 85. Rockstar parking. When finding a spot close to the door at the store, gas station, or wherever. He is kind of a nerd, but I love the guy. Story 86. When I was living in a particularly difficult way, he once said, "You are living in a world where you judge yourself based on your intentions, while everyone else is judging you based on your actions." I have fixed things but always try to keep this perspective. Story 87. If you die, you die. He only said it once, after one of his Afghanistan tours during the chaos of September 11th. He was a Marine. It affected me deeply in my youth. I was 14 then, and he denies ever saying it. As an adult 33 years old, it has truly been a blessing. It helps me live more and do things I would have avoided due to excuses I made. I highly recommend the mantra, but strongly advise against telling your child or anyone else that. Story 88. When seeing a vehicle with a flat tire, he would say, "At least it is only flat on the bottom. I am proud to carry it forward." Story 89. When ordering a steak in a restaurant, just cut off its horns and wipe its butt, and it is good enough for me. When describing shower procedures, first wash as high as possible, then wash as low as possible, then wash thoroughly. Story 90. Mostly just a lot of cursing when I am doing literally anything by myself. Often unnecessarily, like getting out of a chair with a nice long foo. I used to keep it down when others could hear, but it just comes out now. Story 91. All cats are gray in the dark. Stand them on their heads and they all look the same. Never keep company with a woman who has more problems than you. Everyone wants what they do not have. Story 92. There is no such thing as a free lunch. If something seems too good to be true, then it probably is. Edit. I need to read what subreddit I am replying in. I am not a man, but I did not read the subreddit's name before replying. Since the advice is sound, I am leaving the comment up. Story 93. If something is worth doing, it is worth doing right. If you say you are going to do something, then you make sure it gets done. Story 94. Not from my father, but from my mentor and boss of 15 years. Time is worth more than money. Money you can always make, but time you can never get back. So do not let anyone waste your time, including yourself. Best fatherly advice I ever received that has always stuck with me. Story 95. This is a deep question that I thought about for a couple of minutes, and I can confidently say nothing. He was not a good man, so I disregarded many of the things he said. Story 96. Listen, I'm from the country and half the things that are said don't make any sense, but I use almost all of these on a daily basis. Shit and shoved in it. Better than a sharp stick up the ass. My dad is hilarious because he rarely says anything, but when he comes out with these, I laugh a lot. Story 97. Don't ever go anywhere without a sharp pocket knife and a handkerchief. You never know when someone might need to get cut or a lady will need a handkerchief. I miss him every single day. Story 98. God gave you talents not only to help yourself, but also to help your fellow brothers and sisters. Story 99. Life isn't fair. I first heard him say it to me when I was 6 years old. I finally understood it when I was 16 years old. I have learned how to make lemonade when life hands me lemons. I learned that from my mother when I was about 15. Both my parents were right all along. Story 100. It is better that people look at you and think you are a fool than for you to open your mouth and prove it beyond doubt. Story 101. Whenever he saw someone wealthy by something tasteless, he said, champagne money, beer tastes. Whenever he saw someone with little or no money by beyond their means, he said, champagne tastes, beer money. I use those two phrases literally all the time. Story 102. When I was a little kid, he always turned off my light when I went to bed, made the peace sign and said peace before closing my door. I did not understand what it meant until years later. Story 103. You stupid person. I don't really get to use that as much as I would like. And I never say it to children. Never. Story 104. Plan something twice as long as it takes to perform. Take risks, but be sure to calculate them carefully. If you are going to tell stories, make them good. Story 105. It's a bolt. It's a stupid thing. You're smarter than it. Figure it out. This was a catch-all for any mechanical obstacle. He'd also say, you need to put a little time between the two of you. What he meant was, if you were trying to solve a problem and couldn't, then you should walk away, regroup your thoughts, and come back to it. Sometimes a little time apart from the problem is all you need. He worked many hours and was mostly on the night shift, so the only time I would see him was when he was home fixing things. Most of our communication was about fixing things. Story 106. If you are going to be a thief, rob banks. Do not be a petty thief. This always stuck with me as a reminder not to do petty shady things. It seemed beneath me. I never graduated to robbing banks either, so I guess I just try to do things the right way. Story 107. If you do not want to be a loser, do not hang out with losers. You are who you surround yourself with. Story 108. Me. I'm going to take a shower. My dad. Put it back when you're done. It happens so often that I adjusted how I announce my showers. Now I just say, I'm going to shower. But no one else in my house has made that adjustment, so I get to say it to them. My backup dad's statement, if I don't want to use that one for any reason, is simply, use soap this time. Story 109. You won't know until you try. Cliché, I know, but now that I'm older, I've realized everything in life comes with doubts, and that has helped me get out of my comfort zone many times. Story 110. Save a match, buy a farm. It irritates me that this phrase still comes to mind because it represents ultimate frugality. However, it serves as a good reminder to be conservative and sensible in using resources to save money. Story 111. Surround yourself with good people who have skills you do not have, because sometimes you need help, and good people like to feel helpful. Story 112. A man is a responsible male. You are not a real man unless you take care of your responsibilities, especially to family. Never worship kings and princes. Do not worship the powerful. Do not assume someone is better because they are famous. I do not say either, but these thoughts run through my head regularly. Story 113. Don't leave a birdie putt short. Dad was a big golfer, and most of his memorable sayings were golf-related. Story 114. Put some pep in your step. Everyone now says I walk too fast. Hard head makes a soft ass. I got beat a lot. You are an ugly person. Jokes, but I am in fact ugly. Guilty by association. I am extremely picky with who I call a friend. Pops taught me and is still teaching me so much. I am going to call him today. Make the old man get off the couch. Story 115. Busier than a one-legged man in a butt-kicking contest. Busier than a one-armed man hanging wallpaper. Knocked his ass head over teapot. How about that? He is a total troublemaker. He thinks he is very important. Not to worry. Story 116. My dad said, life isn't fair. And there are 3 sides to every story. My ex's dad said, courage always wins, and get yourself a woman who is attractive enough to turn you on, but not attractive enough to cause problems. Story 117. The person who says to think outside the box has already failed. The only box that exists is the one they built. Story 118. I'm absolutely surrounded by them. He would say when people around him were doing foolish things. You could see people pause and wonder if it was about them and what they had done. Worrying about it won't change it. Focus on what you can change. You cannot change people or reverse the outcome of a situation. You can manage how you react and where you invest your energy to make positive changes in your life. My favorite, though, is you can't buy reliability or integrity. That has taken me a long way. Story 119. Do the right thing and then you do not have to worry about anything else. Also, for different circumstances, it is all mental. Story 120. Always use the bathroom if you have the opportunity. You never know when you will not have access to one for a while. Story 121. It's all in the details. Hammered it into my brain. I half-assed a lot of things as a kid, and now, as an adult, I find myself saying it. It doesn't matter what it is. It really is all in the details. Story 122. Wherever you go, there you are. This means you cannot get away from yourself, so the best thing to do is to be the best version of yourself. Otherwise, you will keep running away from things only to end up right where you started. Story 123. If it looks foolish but it works, it is not foolish. What my grandfather learned from his brothers after they came back from World War II, then taught me. Story 124. When I was a child, my parents would always tell me that I was not their problem or responsibility. Now, it is what I tell them if they ask for help. Story 125. What do you say? But not in a you forgot to say thank you way. We could just be riding in the car and not have spoken for 10 minutes. And then I would just hear, so what do you say, buddy? I never understood it, but I have adopted it. Story 126. My father, a bank manager in a large bank, always said, never buy stocks, it's pure gambling. He often added, unless you think it's funny to throw your money out of the window, then do it. He also said, you can't eat bricks, referring to people buying houses that are too big or just spending too much money. My grandfather said, never trust a social democrat. They lie faster than a horse can run. Story 127. No matter how big your tackle box is, you will always fill it up. He was literally referring to fishing at the time, but I have always thought of it as general wisdom. Some things tend to fill up for no other reason than the space is there. We will always tend to feel too busy. We always want to believe that the nicer car, larger house, big promotion, and so on will finally be when we have made it, and everything will feel relaxed and balanced. No, our hands are always going to feel fuller than we would like, no matter what. Those old men are more relaxed not because their tackle box is perfect, but because they have made peace with it always being too full. Story 128. Hello, dog. I say it to my dog every day in Dad's voice and hear my kids say it that way as well. Story 129. Want in one hand and nonsense in the other, and see which one fills up faster. Annoying when I was a kid, hilarious as an adult. Story 130. If my dad saw you propping yourself on a table with your arm, he'd come by, knock your arm out so you'd fall and say, "Look out, pigs are rooting." He'd also say, "If you're right, fight to the death. If you're wrong, be man enough to stand up and admit it." Story 131. Anytime something I did went wrong, the response was, "Well, don't do that." He is not very helpful. However, I did get to use that line with him when he fell on Christmas Day and broke his shoulder. Story 132. Long story short, my dad took a phone payment from me every month for 6 months. When my mom told me that my dad worked for the phone company, and while my bill would normally be $35 a month because my dad worked there, it was $5. My dad looked at me and said, "Son, that's a life lesson. Given the opportunity, anyone will take advantage of you." I still use that today, and it has been proven again and again. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.